Today we're going to learn how to strip, crimp, and cut Ethernet cable or phone cable with this. Stick around, I'll see you right after this. All right, so this is a modular ratcheting crimper. And modular just means that the connectors and the jacks are simply part of a modular plug and jack system where each piece is interchangeable and they're easy to replace without rewiring the whole device or cable. The connectors come in packages like this if you're looking for it in the store. Now this stripper, crimper, cutter is designed to work with different types of connectors, two of them being RJ45, which is an Ethernet connector, and RJ11 and RJ12, which is for telephone plugs. Now, I'm sure you guys have seen these on phone jacks and Ethernet cables. This is an RJ45 connector for Ethernet cables. And this is an RJ11 for telephone cables. Pretty sure you can see that the Ethernet connector is bigger than the telephone connector. Those gold stripes on each one are the contacts that the wires are going to make when they're inserted into the connectors. Ethernet connectors need more wires than telephone connectors. If you can count the contacts, those golden colored strips, you'll count 8 on the Ethernet connector. That just means it has 8 positions for the 8 wires that it's going to accommodate. The telephone connector only has 6 contacts, though normally only about 4 of those are used. Now here's a fun fact. RJ45 connectors won't fit into RJ11 jacks because they're too big. But RJ11 connectors can fit into RJ45 jacks. But that doesn't mean it's going to work properly because they're designed for 2 different purposes. Now, the type of cable that we're going to crimp our connector to is called a Cat5e riser cable. It's a type of Ethernet cable, and it's designed for vertical runs between floors in buildings. It's also called a communications riser or a CMR, and that basically refers to its fire rating. It has stricter safety codes than standard cables because it spans different levels or different floors where a fire can actually spread between the floors. So the jacket on riser cables are fire retardant, which would prevent a fire from using the cable to travel up a building through the different floors. Now, they usually come in 100-foot lengths. Now, if you look closely, you'll see a bunch of individual wires inside this one jacket. That's about 8 wires in there because this is an Ethernet cable, and it has 8 individual wires. On the packaging, it says 24 and 4. The 24 is the gauge of each individual wire, and the 4 is the number of pairs of wires inside the cable. Cat5e has 4 twisted pairs. So that's 8 total wires, and that's the standard for Ethernet. Now let's take a closer look at our ratcheting stripper, crimper, cutter. It is ratcheting and it can lock into place in a closed position. And in order to release it from that position, you just turn this knob here to the unlock. Just turn it counterclockwise and it'll open again. But here's what I want you guys to look at. Right here it says 8P and 6P, and on the other side it has 4P. Anybody want to take a wild guess to what that means? Well, 8P is used for RJ45 connectors. The P just stands for position. So that just says 8 position, 6 position. 8P is for Ethernet plugs or connectors, and 6P is for RJ11 or RJ12 connectors or telephone plugs. 4P is for RJ9s, RJ10s, RJ22s, and 4 position connectors or plugs are common for small telephone handset devices. Now these razors right here in this section, you got one up here and you got one down here. That's for cutting the wire. But right here is what's called a stripping nest. This is where you strip your Cat5e or network cable. So let's go ahead and do that. So you want to take your cable and you want to stick it in this area right here, the stripping nest. And you want to go in about 1 inch or 2 for Ethernet cable, and you bring it all the way down, and then you twist it a little bit, and then just, there you go. Now you have the main jacket off, and your 4 twisted pairs of wires are revealed. This right here, this white stringy stuff, is called a ripcord. Why do they call it that? Because if you want to strip off more of the outer jacket, all you have to do is grab hold of the ripcord, is what they call this, and pull down, and it'll rip off more of the jacket for you. So it makes it easier to take more of that off. All right, so what we're looking at right here are the two standardized wiring schemes that tell you which colored wire goes to which contact pin in your RJ45 connector. So we have the T568-A wiring scheme, and then we have the T568B wiring scheme. Now the T568B is more common in the US, and it's basically the default choice for most installations. The T568A is used for government and international installations. Either one works fine as far as performance, but there's one thing you gotta remember. You gotta use the same standard on both ends of the cable. So if you use a T568B on one end and a T568A on the other end of a cable, you're gonna create what's called a crossover cable. And that's been used in the past to connect two computers directly together. But if you're gonna connect a computer to a switch or a router, then both ends should match. It doesn't matter if it's a T568A or a T568B. All right, guys, these wiring schemes come in your connector packaging. If you got an RJ45, this one comes with it. If you got an RJ11, it shows you the wire scheme on that, so you don't have to be confused. So we're gonna follow the T568B wiring scheme. So we're gonna take our wires, and what I'm gonna do is take my RJ45 connector and put it against the wires. And I know the wires have to come up to about here where the contact pins are. So I need to cut off this excess here, okay? So that's one way of doing it. So let's go ahead and cut that off and take our cutter. Go ahead and take a scissors and just cut it flush. So now we're gonna separate our wires. So now we can see we have the 4 twisted wires that comprise an RJ45 Ethernet cable. But now we need to untwist these wires, and then we will have 8 wires. Now, if we look at the wire schemes, it gives you a depiction of the connector, and it shows you the color scheme and what order they should go in when they enter the connector. So we have the brown on the right, then we have the brown and white, then we have the green, the solid green, then we have the blue and white, then we have the blue, then we have the green and white, then we have the orange, and then we have the orange and white. All right, guys, so this is the order of the color scheme you must have for an RJ45 connector when you enter the connector. So from right to left, you have solid brown, which is this one. Then you have brown and white, which is this one. Then you have solid green, which is this one. Then you have blue and green, which is this one. Then you have solid blue, which is this one. Then you have green and white, which is that one. Then you have solid orange, which is this one. And then you have orange and white, which is this one. So now what you want to do is you want to take your wires, you want to make sure they're arranged neatly and in order, and insert them into your RJ45 connector. Then you want to place it in the 8P slot because it's 8 positions, 8 contact pins. And squeeze. And there you go. Hey, if you learned something from the video, hit that like and subscribe. Appreciate the support. Leave a comment, and I'll see you in the next one.